Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us for our third episode of the Royle Group Weekly. It's your host, Ben Goheen, and every week I bring local real estate news from the Quinte market right to your home. Each week I bring on a guest, and this week's no different. I've got three guests this week. Travis Royle, Travis Mounty, and Elliot Hadfed all come to join me to talk about what it's like to buy your first home. We'd like to go ahead and go through the whole process for you, start from finish, so we can explain some things that maybe it's your first home and you really don't quite understand. Maybe it's your second or third home and it's been a little while and you want to know more about the process. We'll take you through it. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Say hi.
Hey, guys.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
So let's jump right into it. Let's start with you, Travis. Travis Royle, you're starting to buy your first home. What's the first thing you need to do?
First step is to reach out and find yourself a good real estate agent. Hopefully you've already found one because you're watching this video. The step two would be to get yourself pre-approved for your mortgage.
Okay, what's involved in doing a pre-approval? How do I go about that?
Well, it depends on your situation. There's a lot of things to take in consideration when you're looking for a pre-approval. So we would sit down, we would do like a little bit of a needs analysis for you, and then we would guide you towards multiple different contacts that we have to help make sure that you're in front of the right person.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to know that I'm going to be well taken care of. Now, in this process too, when I'm talking to you, are you billing me for this time? How do I have to pay you in the end of all of this, or how does that work?
No, as a buyer, you don't have to pay the real estate agent. When the real estate agent gets paid is after the sale, and the sellers pay the buyer's agent. So you don't have to pay for our services at this point at all.
Oh, so the seller's paying 5% commission, and that's divvied up between the two agents that are cooperating together.
Correct.
Go ahead. You go to the bank. Say, hey, big bank, I'd like to buy my first home. What's the first step that you go to when you walk in there?
Well, depending on where you're going and depending on your particular situation, you can either go to one of the big banks or you can go to a mortgage broker. A mortgage broker does have access to different types of lending than a normal big bank.
What's the difference between a big bank and a mortgage broker then for you?
The difference between a big bank and a mortgage broker is a big bank is for that particular institution. So if you bank with Scotiabank or TD or BMO, and that's what you prefer, then we can set you up with a mortgage specialist for any of those banks. If you if you need a mortgage broker or you want, let's say your credit score isn't great.
Now, the easiest thing, things that people care the most about is what's my rate going to be? What's going to be lower, a mortgage broker or at a big bank?
Well, again, like the question, it depends on the person. It depends on the situation, right? Like you could find a B lender that is going to, give you an amazing rate, but there could be a lot of weird stipulations in that. If it was a big bank, they could still give you a great rate. And it depends on your mortgage. It depends on your credit score. It depends on a lot of different factors. What kind of employment do you have? All that stuff. So, if you go to a mortgage broker and you have to go more of like a private financing route, you could have interest rates of 6, 7, 8%.
Right, but they'll fund you, right? Where a big bank would say no.
That's right. So if a big bank says no because you can't find. Because let's say you have something on your credit score isn't amazing, or you're self-employed and the big bank won't touch you because of that. Going to a mortgage broker might be the best bet for you because then you can get special financing.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point talking about big banks and where you do your own personal banking. If you're a Scotiabank customer and you do all your personal banking there, it does make sense to buy another product from them. They'll treat you a little bit better. You get a better deal maybe on your other things or however. But if you go to a broker, they're able to shop rates as well too. So they're going to pick from a handful of different institutions to lend you money from. And like you said too, that they're going to have flexibility in difficult situations where your borrowing power isn't as strong, they have a little bit more flexibility to make things work for you as well.
Yeah, so like that's why it's step one, right? You
Yeah.
need to figure out how what's the best route for you to get your financing. Is
Right.
it, RBC? Is it TD? Is it Scotiabank? Then go, all right, well, let's say none of those banks will, give you a great rate, or they're not pre-approving you. Then maybe it's time to look at mortgage brokers.
Right.
You've always been told mortgage brokers are the way to go, so then let's let's get you right in front of your mortgage broker right away.
Perfect. So, Elliot, I'll pass this on to you now. I've gone to the bank. I've got my pre-approval for X amount of dollars. I've come back to you, said, Elliot, I did a great job. I got a great rate going, and I'm going to be pre-approved for this amount. Let's go look for a house. What's the next step? Where do I start now?
From there, I would just touch base with you, and I would find out what your criteria is, what features you're looking for in a home: location, age, style, size, and then we would start the process of the searching. From there, I would search for a home, search for many homes, let you kind of decide on which homes are the best fit for you, and then we would arrange a day or a few days to go see multiple homes or a home that suits you best, that you feel like you're the most interested in.
Okay, perfect. So we've got our pre-approval now from Travis. We're going searching for a house with Elliot. We found a house that we really enjoy and want to put an offer in. I'm very excited to put an offer in on my first house. What do we do first?
So we're going to obviously visit the property first. You say that you want to put an offer in on it. So we'll begin drafting the offer. We'll go over everything from how much you want to spend on it, when you want to close the property, if there's any conditions that you want to include, such as a home inspection or financing. If you get into rural properties, we're going to look at septic inspections and well inspections to protect you as the buyer, to make sure that you are buying a good property that you know doesn't need a lot of work, or if it does, we know what the work is before you moving in.
The place that I want to put an offer in, it's holding an offer date. What is that?
So when properties hold offers, the sellers have directed their realtors to say, we want to wait until 3 days into the listing to see any offers. What they're doing is they're probably in a very competitive price range, or they have a very nice property that they think is going to sell quickly. So they're trying to get as many potential buyers through before they start looking at offers.
Okay, so you're telling me that I'm putting an offer in. They're trying to inspire competition. So Elliot's going to put an offer in for one of his clients as well too. Now we're in multiple offers. Elliot, tell me a little bit about multiple offers.
Right. Multiple offers is when there's more than one person interested in a property, and they're putting in competitive offers on that home to try to win that for themselves.
So in a multiple offer situation, I've put one in. Is the seller going to accept more than one of those offers, or do they just deal with one, or how's that work?
They have to choose the offer that they feel is most suited towards what their needs are, or is the most competitive offer.
And when I do put an offer in, it's in multiple offers, how long does it take to hear back usually?
That all depends as well. You can set an irrevocable time period where it might be a couple hours, or it could be a day, allowing both parties to allow them to have time to figure out how they want to handle it.
Depends on the presentation time, when they're going to present.
Right. And so, Travis, you brought up presentation time and irrevocable time as well. What is an irrevocable time? What does that mean for a buyer?
That's how much time the one party, the buyers or the sellers, have with an offer.
Okay, so I put in an offer with an irrevocable time of a couple of hours. What happens at the end of that time?
The offer that you put in expires.
Okay, so the seller can't accept it anymore. So
No.
you can then put in a little bit of pressure as well too, if you're trying to get them to accept an offer and not let anybody else see it. Is that what's going on?
Yes. The other thing is it has to be a reasonable amount of time, because if the other agent doesn't have time to get it in front of the other party, then it's it'll be null and void before they even have the chance to present it.
Okay. So let's say I win in a multiple offer situation. I've gone conditional. Travis Mountain, what's a conditional offer mean?
A conditional offer is an offer on a property that you, as the buyer, want something satisfied, whether it be financing, a home inspection. It could be the seller producing some documentation for you or making some small repairs or changes to the property. Depending on what your conditions are, there's a set amount of time for you to fulfill those. And usually we're about 5 to 7 business days. Once those are fulfilled, you sit down with your realtor again, make sure that the property is still what you want to purchase. And at that point, you can fulfill your conditions and firm the deal up, or you can release from the deal and start looking for a new property.
So on a typical property, you're going to usually see home inspection and financing. When do I start? How do I contact a home inspector? How do I get them into the other property? What does this whole process entail? How do I get started?
Most realtors have a long list of different inspectors for different properties, whether it be a home inspector, well inspector, septic inspector. So they'll be able to provide you a list of referrals, so you could make the phone call as the client to the inspector of your choice and then arrange for them to go through the house.
Okay, so they come through the house. How long does a home inspection take?
Depending on the size of the property, you could be anywhere from about an hour and a half to 3 hours. Some are a little quicker, some are a little slower, just depends on the property.
So Travis Mountain, I've gone through the home inspection. My home inspector clears the house. I'm happy with the product. I'm happy with what's going on structural wise. The next part is financing. What happens now? How does a home get cleared for financing?
So as soon as we have an accepted offer on the property, us as the realtors will forward a copy of the accepted offer with they will begin to work through their channels to send it to their underwriters to finalize your approval. It's at that stage that they'll determine if the property needs an appraisal.
Okay. So Travis Royle, this next question is for you. I've got now all my conditions have been fulfilled. Everything's worked out. The house is what I want to buy, and I'm approved to do it. How do I go into a firm sale? How do I make sure that I'm going to walk away with this property?
You have a couple options. One, you just submit a notice of fulfillment, then the property's yours. So that just means that you are fulfilling the conditions that you had on the on your original offer, right? So you had condition of financing and home inspection. Well, that's just telling them that you fulfilled those, and now the deal would be firm. So the next way would be submitting a waiver. A waiver just means that you're waiving your conditions. Like you didn't fulfill them or you did fulfill them. Doesn't matter. It's like they weren't even like you put them there, but you've waived them away. Like not to worry about them. Another way would be an amendment to remove them. That would be that they weren't even there in the first place. So there's a few ways that you can firm the deal up.
Okay. So I've gone firm now, and I have a closing day in a couple of months. What do I have to do in between? Do I just wait for it to close? What happens next?
Now, once the deal is firm, there's a few things that you're going to have to do to prepare for the closing date. Our office will put together a lawyer instruction letter and make sure everything gets over to your lawyer. You're going to let us know what lawyer you want to use, or we can recommend, multiple different lawyers in the area, and then you can pick who you're most comfortable with. Then you need to set up all your utilities. You need to get your address changed, all that stuff.
Okay, so Elliot, it's a week before closing. The lawyer has asked me to come in and sign some documents. What are these documents for, and how do I end up with the keys to my new house?
When you arrange a time to meet with a lawyer, which is usually on the day of closing, you might arrange a date and time prior to that a week before, but you go meet with the lawyer on the day of closing or the day before closing, and you sign all your documents, your legal documents at the lawyer's office, and there might be some adjustments in there. lawyer fees, etc. And from there, once all your documents are signed with the lawyer, either you'll get the keys from the lawyer's office, or at this time we are leaving keys in lock boxes, which we just share the code to you after we've got approval that the process has been completed.
And so if my house closes on, say, the 17th of June, at what time of day can I get my keys?
It really kind of all depends. It depends if it's going through the same lawyer's office, if it's different lawyers' offices and they're different places, different times. It could be first thing in the morning. It could be later in the afternoon. Us as a team, we try to get our closing dates on usually a Monday through Thursday, just in case something does happen where it is later in the day and it's after the lawyer's office is closed for the day. We don't want you have to wait until Monday if it's on a Friday. We want to try to make sure we allow you time to get everything completed that week.
And that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for joining us at home. You can please do remember to follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube. We're going to put the links right there down below. It was great having you today. And thank you so much to my guests for joining me and the insight and knowledge that you provide. We're going to be going back to our multi-part series next week, so make sure to join in. We'll see you then. And remember, you deserve the royal treatment.